This is the Literacy Mindset Podcast, where education leaders discuss identifying and removing phonological barriers with MindPlay's CEO, Jeff Pendleton.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone. Very excited for another episode of the Literacy Mindset. And I have a great guest today out from California, the Oak Grove School District, Dr. Patricia Mondragón-Doty. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you talking about some pretty awesome things that you have going out there. We'll probably dive into a little bit of a dual language and bilingual angle today because you have so much experience with it. But let's maybe first orient the audience to that and give them a little bit of background on how it is that you got into your role as Director of Instruction, Curriculum, and Assessment.
Oh yeah, thank you. So yes, I worked for Gilroy Unified for about 12 years. I was a teacher of dual language program at the elementary level, middle school level, was administrator for also middle school as assistant principal, and then had various roles, whether it be migrant ed teacher to KC instructor, and also worked for Gavilan Community College for a bit.
All right. So you've been around, you've done building administration, you've taught, now you're running the curriculum side of the house. Talk to us a little bit about what that looks like. What's the difference of thinking about literacy as a director of curriculum and instruction versus how you thought about it as a principal or as a teacher? Like, can you give us some insights as to how you think about it a little differently depending on role?
Oh, yeah. Yes. So before this job, I was also a principal at an elementary school in Del Roble to bilingual immersion. And yes, definitely as a site administrator to now a director, it's very nice to be able to see the big picture as to, how to support our sites in that literacy work that they need. As a principal, you definitely walk into the classroom, see what literacy instruction looks like, being able to support the teachers and seeing what curriculum you have at your disposal, whether it be the adopted district curriculum or any other supplemental resources that are needed in the classroom, right? So over here at the district level, it's every site has various needs. So there's just same district adopted curriculum, a number of items, but many more supplemental resources, right? And how to be able to support the site with making the best decision to be able to support their students. And that's through data analysis of their sites, helping them with that, and also helping them with also the research that needs to be done to be able to really back up those supplemental resources.
Got it. So can you help us understand the decision-making framework for you? Where do you draw the line of, like, we're going to do a district level curriculum, we're going to make some adoption, or no, we're going to let sites kind of pick and choose some of the things that work best for them? Is there a framework that you use to decide that? Is it a little bit of a gut feel? How do you guys decide that?
So perfect timing for that type of question. Why? Because we are going through that process right now. Of adopting an English language arts ELD program. Okay. So we just finished in selecting the two programs that we're going to be adopting for the 25-26 school year. And how did we do that? Well, we did it using California Department of Ed resources because it lays out the process. And part of the process is making sure that our teachers are there from the beginning. So we just finished with our district curriculum team, that is teachers that represent all of the sites, in creating our language and literacy vision for the district. So hot off the press.
Bring people together and say, what does our vision look like? We establish it, and representation from every site sort of gets to participate. Got it.
And of course, talking about the challenges, talking about the most recent research happening, right? Science of reading, technology, just what is it that we want to support our students with for them to be those global citizens.
Right.
So that took a lot of collaboration, but we've got it done. So that was the first piece. What was our vision?
Okay.
And then we met many meetings. We just had the paper screening, which is looking at all of the different curriculum that we had chosen to review for the selection of the 2 pilots. And we got that done. Right. And now it's rolling out the pilots for this coming year. So we're super excited because we know that choosing the most appropriate and effective curriculum will not only support our teachers with the heavy lift that they have to do on the daily basis, but also, of course, our students.
Right.
So we based our decisions on looking at our current curriculum and what we saw that it wasn't, that it was lacking in, and what supports our 21st century students need.
Got it. Okay, great decision-making framework. That gets rolled out across the district, K-8? Is that how you think about it?
K-8, yes.
Okay, excellent. And then does that allow sites on their own to make some choices as they supplement, or do you still make recommendations for what they supplement? How do they make additional decisions?
So as a site, every site creates their school plan for student achievement.
Right.
And within that process, they look at data. They look at how their students are doing and have collaborative meetings with their staff and, of course, their parents. Right. And based on those needs, then what's happening? How is the district adopted curriculum not supporting them with maybe students that are having certain specific needs that curriculum isn't helping with? So then, based on that, and of course, funding do we have the funding for it? Then they make the decision of what to incorporate within those tier 2 and tier 3 supports.
That's kind of an interesting dynamic if you think about core curriculum, and it's designed to bring a cohort of students, right? A collective group of students for 180 days of instruction, right? But the train leaves the station and then it's like, oh, we're on our way to 180 days. We know how fast we have to go, like pacing guides and all of the things that come as part of that. But then you have, the variances amongst your learners, and you have people that move in the middle of the year, and you have IEPs that kind of come up. So talk a little bit about how you incorporate what you just described, or you referenced in tier 2 intervention. How do you guys think about intervention? Does it look differently across different grades? Do you try and keep commonalities across buildings? Maybe just walk us through a little bit about what intervention looks like, since you kind of walked us through your nice core curriculum decision-making framework.
So as a district, and especially in this role, the job is to really ensure that our principals have the most accurate data to be able to have them, understand the needs of and the needs of their different students, right? And we go ahead and do that through providing them data, of their subgroups and how did they fare this past year. So then that way they're able to go ahead and model that same way of desegregating the data, if you will, to now as a site or for their teachers. Because the most important thing is for the teachers to understand their students and to know their students and the gaps that the assessments are saying that they have, right? But also knowing the informal type of assessments that teachers do regularly to really be able to see, is this assessment really where that student is at, right? So a lot of professional learning, PLCs, professional learning community work, right?
Right.
And that's one of the things that as a teacher, it was an eye opener when I was able to, look at a test result and desegregate my data.
Right.
How was my whole class doing? And if it was a test that all of them didn't do well, guess what? They didn't fail the test. The teacher failed the students.
Right.
Right. But also looking how my females did, how my males did, how my students with special needs did, how my English language learners did, how my reclassified students did. And
Right.
that was really something that helped me really develop my lessons better and be able to then create small groups to then pull those students, but ensuring that I wasn't always pulling the same students over and over, because that speaks volumes in a classroom. Oh, so-and-so is always going to the,
Right.
kid need table. No, that's not what we want to do either, right? So ultimately, it's really fostering that professional learning community
Okay.
to see, are the assessments the right ones that I need to be using in the classroom for the needs of my students?
Right.
Can I analyze that data correctly? Am I having reflective conversations with myself, but also my grade level team?
Right.
Because I might be a new teacher that, might be doing things and it's going to be validated in those conversations. But I'm also going to get some new ideas that I didn't even think about. Or am I a veteran teacher that I can really share the wealth of information that I'm holding, but also get some additional new tools in my
Right.
toolbox?
Right. Okay, so let's drill into what you said there. If I'm a teacher and I discover that I'm not getting the data that I feel like I need, what do am I coming back to you, to the curriculum team, and saying, hey, I need a better assessment, or do I have sort of some leeway to try and determine the assessment? How does that relationship work between the district and teachers?
So part of the process in the professional learning community is to be able to analyze that data and see what worked and what didn't, right? And as a grade level team, then if I'm the only one having those issues, well, might be something within the classroom, right? But if
Right.
all of us are having that same issue with this assessment, then we need to reach out to our instructional leader, who is our principal,
Right.
right?
Got it.
Or our fellow colleagues. If I'm a fourth grade teacher, well, what's happening in fifth grade land, sixth grade land, right? Are they seeing that as well? Because sometimes this happens. Oh, I've heard of a great program that is, giving a lot of results at this other site. Maybe we should look into it, right?
Right.
Because if we're using the same program, getting the same results, where I'm headed, that's insanity, right?
Right.
So what is it that we need to try out new?
Got it.
Or are the students just not engaged?
Right.
Because this is an assessment or something that they've seen over and over, and they're just done with it, right? So a lot of different factors, and that's the great thing about the PLC process, that you have that conversation and really try to figure out what to do next to support the students that might have not met that target that you had set.
Right. Well, and I think one of the things that you mentioned as we were kind of just preparing a little bit for this was there is an element in what you've seen in schools, mostly in the dual immersion or bilingual schools, that is a soft skill component to it, where you have actual students that can lean on one another. So before we get in and talk about some of the, hard, fast foundational skills, I thought it'd be interesting for you to kind of walk through some of the stuff that you've recognized, because as you just talked about teachers leaning on teachers and PLCs where they get to come and learn from and benefit from each other. You've also kind of seen that at the student level. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes, definitely. The the most impactful moments in as an educator in my profession was when I had that camaraderie with my colleagues of being able to have those conversations.
Right.
And I also saw it in the classroom with my students as a teacher. And that's where, when you have a dual language program and you have that linguistic demographics, right? You
Right.
have students that, let's say in a Spanish dual language program, you have students that are their primary language is Spanish, and then you have students their primary language is in English. These programs, 50-50 model or 90-10 model, help create that camaraderie because students are dependent on each other. It
Got it.
creates this interdependence, which for Oak Grove, we're very thankful that we have that as part of one of our vision statements. And only through that will you have students that feel relaxed in a classroom, feel like they can ask questions without being judged. Because if it's Spanish instruction time, we know the students are going to be like, okay, I have your back. I can help you because guess what? I know exactly what the teacher's saying, and I'm going to translate for you, and I'm going to interpret for you. And when the language is flipped and it's English time, guess what?
Now I have someone I can lean on.
Correct. And then the guard is down
Right.
for students to be able to really know each other, and then also create those friendships that I have seen continue on even after college as an educator. I've seen my former students still be connected and still, talk about, oh, we're going to college together. And guess what? The camaraderie continues. So that is something that I haven't seen in all settings. And
Right.
I'm very fortunate to be able to say that dual language programs foster that sense of camaraderie, not only with the students, but of course with the teachers as well.
Right. And you focus a lot on this biliteracy side of the world. And we talked a little bit about early academic language that you are focused on. And I think that probably contributes to it. I think I think SEAL is one of the ways that you referenced it as. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, that is when I saw so much joyful learning.
Okay.
At the primary levels and at the fourth and fifth grade and sixth grade levels. Just having so broader early academic language strategies it basically is best teaching strategies, right?
Sure.
That the teachers are able to really use to engage those early age students in being able to develop their language, being able to speak, being able to sing, being able to go ahead and do total physical response on really seeing how they're connecting what they're saying to actual words. For
Right.
example, in a classroom, you go in there and you see a chant written on a white piece of paper.
Right.
And the students are singing that chant. And the teacher is making sure to go ahead and just point at each of those words as the students are singing. So they're starting to go ahead and make those phonemic connections of words and sounds. And the student might be a little TK student, but guess what? For them, they're reading because they're connecting what they're saying to the words on that whiteboard. But of course, the focus there in kinder and first is for them to enjoy reading and being able to really understand how words create sentences, create paragraphs that have this beautiful meaning of saying stories. The other thing to make those connections, and of course to foster that understanding that all students come with assets, is ensuring that every student knows that their primary language, whichever one it is, lives in that classroom. What do I mean by that?
Yeah.
Is that there are words that reference their primary language, whether it be Mandarin, Chinese, Punjabi, all of those are reflected, because students need to understand that primary language, whatever it is,
Right.
is going to be the leverage that they have to learn Spanish or English or whichever other language.
Right.
As a teacher, our job is to bridge those languages together and ensure that even if it is a dual language program that is focused on Spanish language instruction, let's say a 90-10 model, that every child's primary language lives within. So
that's great. And I love hearing you talk about that. And there's so many benefits that can come from communities that have an emphasis on dual language and bilingualism, because it creates these communities, it creates opportunities to leverage assets in different ways. Oftentimes, when we talk about the science of reading or good foundational skills practice, we're thinking K2, K3, like third grade reading laws. We have all kinds. Need to be reading by third grade, all that. And yet, despite our best efforts, we have plenty of students that get beyond third grade and still are missing foundational skills. Maybe that's because of migrant communities that are moving in. Maybe it's because of whatever reason that might be the case. But talk to us a little bit about what happens in Oak Grove after third grade, somewhere in the 3rd to 8th grade, when there are still foundational gaps. How do you guys think about that? What do you do? What resources, people? And we talked a little bit about coaches and aides and things. So maybe give us a little insight into that.
So yeah, thank you for that great question. What we want to be able to do and support our students, hopefully before they get to third grade, right,
Sure.
is to really see why there's those gaps. Is it because they have missed educational experiences that, maybe it could be attendance, or have they not been able to see how, if they're English language learners, how their primary language connects to the English language that's being assessed, right?
Right.
So as a teacher, one of the resources that I could use is Cognates. And I've seen this used in non-dual language programs and, of course, dual language programs. Lists of, and at third grade level, you can have those conversations with the students of explicitly letting them know how their primary language is so similar or not to the English language, right? And because I'm bilingual and biliterate in Spanish and English, it's easy for me as an instructor to create two lists,
right,
and say, guess what? Information and información, almost
so
totally simple. Once that student sees that, you have empowered them to understand that they know more than they thought possible. And right off the bat, they're going to be detectives, cognate detectives. And being able to see in this paragraph, what do I already know?
Mm-hmm.
And what do I not? And then being able to support them with having the confidence enough to ask you what they don't understand.
Right.
Or is it that the student also maybe hasn't received enough language and literacy development in their primary language, that's not even going to help them because they can't read it in Spanish?
Identification of a cognate may not help.
Right. So, of course, teachers, we all try to, the first 2 weeks of school, community builders, right?
Right.
Now it's, different terms, but the same best teaching practices, knowing our students, where are they coming from? What are they coming with? How can I express to them that whatever it is that they're coming with, I see it as an asset.
Right.
And we're going to leverage it to help them with English instruction or Spanish instruction, which whatever the goal is, right? So those are a couple of things, bridging those languages. And if I'm not bilingual and biliterate in that student's primary language, what resources am I going to use to have them see themselves in the classroom? How am I going to go get those dictionaries in Korean and Vietnamese? How am I going to go ahead and get some posters and put them up in the classroom so they know that I appreciate where they're coming from? And then translanguaging. How am I going to have them feel comfortable enough to use whatever linguistic power they have in the classroom and then pair them up, strategically pairing them up with students that have those commonalities and also students that they can lean on and vice versa.
Right. Well, those are great strategies. It sounds like you guys are doing some good things. We find so many times that becomes a challenging space beyond third grade. And if you're not actively working on how to find common assets and things that students can work with, that it can be challenging. We could probably talk about this stuff forever. This has been fantastic and fun to talk about. You guys have so many good things going. One of the things that people ask me a lot, so we end up talking about a lot, is what does the future hold? There's a lot of uncertainty right now. There's plenty of things that people are a little bit nervous about. So I've kind of made it a goal to ask amazing guests on the podcast to give us a little bit of a window into their future thinking, how they're thinking of it. So as a final question, I will ask you to pull out your crystal ball and give us some insights or thoughts as to what 5 to 10 years from now looks like. And I want it from the lens of what should we keep doing? Like what do we, that's a good way to predict the future. Like what's going to still be the same, because that sameness will help us be better. Or what should we stop doing? And if we can stop doing these things, then the future will look the way that you would like it to look. Do you have an angle on one of those two that you could share with us in your crystal ball?
Oh gosh, I always say, if there weren't any barriers, how would it look like, right? Best case scenario. Okay, you guys, in the best case scenario, what could we do? Base case scenario would be that we continue to put an emphasis and a focus on ensuring that our teachers, we listen to our teachers, right? That there's a safe space for them to also let their guard down and not feeling like they're going to be judged, for them to be able to share with us what it is that they need, whether it be in training, professional development, what would make them feel more successful with their students, right? And also to make sure that we don't burden them so much with things that just need to be done. And it's a checkoff list.
Checklist.
Right? Because once we have that honest conversation of what's working and what's not for our students, and that there is a collective effort in making choices for our district adopted curriculum, and also supplemental resources that come in those classrooms,
right,
then we wouldn't have such a disconnect that I've seen in various different systems, right?
Right.
And then we could really start talking about what is working and what's not. Because in 5 to 10 years, what we're doing right now is probably going to be obsolete, to tell you the truth.
It's going fast right now.
Even in a couple of years, I see as what we're doing in Oak Grove School District completely changing. because the educational needs of our students are changing because our students are changing.
Sure.
Right? And the curriculum that I started using to the curriculum that is now available to our teachers and our students is ages away.
Very different.
And that's what does give me a lot of hope that we are in the right direction, because for us to just continue to make sure that we have a humanistic lens in the classroom,
right,
and that our teachers can support our students with all of the things that are coming their way, and that there is that collective effort, that there is that interdependence, even, not just within the students, but also with the teachers and the students.
Right, right.
For the teachers to facilitate the learning that needs to be happening in the classroom, right? And for us as directors, as district administrators, to make the best decisions, but it's based on the site, the teacher, the student needs. And that's through continued surveys that we do have at Oak Grove, continued collaborative meetings that we do have at Oak Grove. So that's going to really, really help us. And it's nothing, shocking,
Right.
groundbreaking. It's just best practices.
Well, I love that. And I think your emphasis on interdependence and collaboration is likely the mainstay that is going to be required for us to, have the future that you are just describing, because as we do that together, I think there's a lot that can be accomplished. Well, thank you so much, Patricia, for joining me today. This has been an excellent conversation. We've talked about a lot of great things that you guys are doing at Oak Grove, and I hope that we have the opportunity to do it again soon.
Oh, thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you for the invite.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Learn how we help students by identifying and removing phonological barriers at mindplay.com.